Frankl wrote Man's Search for Meaning in 9 days following his release from concentration camp in 1945. But more importantly, he developed a therapeutic approach that continues to be used in clinical practice today. He called it logotherapy, from the Greek word logos, which denotes meaning. In the book, Frankl mentions that the full description of logotherapy was published in 20 separate volumes in the German language. But he provides a simplified overview in the second half of Man's Search for Meaning. Logotherapy is considered a branch of existential humanism, which I discussed in episode 1 about Carl Rogers. Logotherapy is based on the assumption that human beings have an innate will to meaning. So whereas Freudian psychoanalysis focuses on the will to desire, and the Adlerian approach focuses on the will to power, logotherapy focuses on the will to meaning. At least twice, Frankl cites a quote from the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. "He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how." Frankl says, and I quote, "Man's search for meaning is the primary motivation in his life, and not a secondary rationalization of instinctual drives. This meaning is unique and specific in that it must and can be filled by him alone. Only then does it achieve a significance which will satisfy his own will to meaning." So to Frankl, meaning in life is not just a defense mechanism so that we don't have to think about uncomfortable existential realities. On the contrary, it is an existential reality, a very real part of the makeup of human beings. It follows then that many modern neuroses come from a frustration of the will to meaning. Frankl talks about what he calls Sunday neurosis. That is, how humans can busy themselves rushing around with jobs and taking care of children all through the week, and then when it all stops on Sunday, they are caught in the void, the existential vacuum. In these moments, there is a frustration in their will to meaning, which may lead to depression, aggression, or addiction. This is where logotherapy comes in. Frankl says this, and I quote, "Logotherapy regards its assignment as that of assisting the patient to find meaning in his life, inasmuch as logotherapy makes him aware of the hidden logos of his existence." End quote. It isn't, however, that the logotherapist provides meaning for the client or dictates what their meaning ought to be. Frankl illustrates it this way, with the metaphor of an eye specialist and a painter. He says, and I quote, "A painter tries to convey to us a picture of the world as he sees it. An ophthalmologist tries to enable us to see the world as it really is. The logotherapist's role consists of widening and broadening the visual field of the patient so that the whole spectrum of potential meaning becomes conscious and visible to him." End quote. And it isn't that an individual just once for all time with a pithy statement comes up with a way of expressing the meaning for their life. No, but Frankl puts it this way, and I quote, "Thus far we have shown that the meaning of life always changes, but that it never ceases to be. According to logotherapy, we can discover this meaning in life in 3 different ways. 1, by creating a work or doing a deed. 2, by experiencing something or encountering someone. And 3, by the attitude we take toward unavoidable suffering." End quote. So again, it isn't about just finding a single meaning in life. Rather, it is about constantly finding meaning, no matter what life puts before us. Frankl refers to this constant meaning finding in the face of suffering as tragic optimism. He says that life puts before us a tragic triad made up of 1, pain, 2, guilt, and 3, death. But the purpose of logotherapy and this meaning making of logotherapy is to understand that life is potentially meaningful under any conditions, even those that are most miserable. If successful, the result will be for 1, pain, turning suffering into a human achievement and accomplishment. 2, deriving from guilt the opportunity to change oneself for the better. And 3, death, deriving from life's transitoriness an incentive to take responsible action. Frankl sums it up this way, and I quote, "The logotherapist is concerned with the potential meaning inherent and dormant in all the single situations one has to face throughout his or her life. To invoke an analogy, consider a movie. It consists of thousands upon thousands of individual pictures, and each of them makes sense and carries a meaning. Yet the meaning of the whole film cannot be seen before its last sequence is shown." End quote.